Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Michael. I'm a physical therapist, and I'll be talking tonight about how to take advantage of the off season. Now, for those of you who don't know me, just a little bit about myself before I get into the meat of the presentation. I graduated from Bradley University with my doctorate in physical therapy. I'm a triathlete myself. I've competed in multiple half Ironman triathlons. I did my first full Ironman last year, and I've taken my passion for the endurance sports and I brought it into my private practice, Goza Physical Therapy, where I specialize in working with runners. Now, when thinking about what topic to talk about for the late presentation, Evanston Running Club education, event for this year, I was thinking about how a lot of the patients that I'm working with right now are not thinking about the races that they have coming up because it's the off season. So there's so many different things that I'm focusing on in my patient care that I wanted to share with you here. So during the training season, your goal is extremely obvious. Okay, if let's say you're signed up for the marathon in October, you're thinking about the marathon. All the training you're doing, the training plan that you have is all revolved around performing on that day. So it's very easy to stay focused on that. The goal is very obvious. But during the off season, the goal is a lot less obvious. Sometimes people do nothing the whole off season just to wait until the spring to start picking races. So my goal for this presentation is to give you a handful of ideas and some action items that will help you in finding something to keep you busy during the off season to then have a better performance in the 2024 training season. Because the off season presents a unique opportunity to work on things that are not priorities during the training season. There's a whole bunch of things that are all really nice to do alongside all the running, but I'm guilty of just going for runs, putting the running shoes in the closet, and then taking a shower. Not necessarily doing any of the stretching, not necessarily doing much of the supplemental strength stuff. So in the off season, there's going to be really a handful of things that I kind of whittled down as focus points, okay? So some of my patients right now, sorry, I'm going to move this table one more time. So some of my patients right now, their goals during the off season are to improve their speed. Okay, I'm going to talk about each of these in a second, but some people have goals of improving speed. Some people I'm working with right now just on their gait quality, so not even necessarily working on a performance standpoint, but working on their running economy and how they're running. Now is a really good time to do that because there's no race pressure. Mobility is a big topic right now, and then strength training, as always, is really helpful. And then there are those people who simply just want to put their feet up, and they should if they've had a very stressful training season. Now is the time to relax, okay? But I'm going to go through each of those really quickly. So if your goal is to improve speed, the main way you're going to want to do that is by running shorter distances faster, not long distances faster. So if we take the example of a 5K, right, you're not going to want to just run 5Ks all the time to make your 5K time better. What you're really going to want to do is interval training, okay? You're going to want to take a short interval of time and try to run it as fast as you can. Now, that's an all-out sprint. There's various levels of interval training. I'm not going to get into the weeds here, but the overarching idea is that you're not just going to run 5Ks over and over and over again to get a faster 5K. You need to incorporate interval training, and that's really how you start to accelerate and get faster. Okay? So many of you know that the Evanston Running Club has indoor track workouts on Sundays in the winter. Those are awesome. Right now, they're not being held during the holiday season, so I also wanted to make you guys aware of Stride Fitness, which is an indoor treadmill training studio in Wilmette. That is where I host my running gait workshops. They do interval workouts every day of the week, okay, for walkers or runners, and they have these awesome wood-weight treadmills where you can change the incline, so you can also get elevation training along with all the interval training. ERC members get 2 weeks free for their 2 weeks free trial for their unlimited membership. So if you're interested, Stride Fitness in Wilmette, just say you're from ERC. So essentially how to improve your speed. I like, if I'm going to use that 5K as that baseline. I have one patient right now. She's trying to PR for a 5K in March, and she just did the turkey trot this past weekend or this past week. So she's established her baseline for the target distance. She's ran that 5K. Okay. Now her and I, and then along with some of the other supplemental tours, are going to do interval training of some kind throughout the winter, and then she has a 5K in March that she's trying to PR for. But maybe once or twice, definitely once, maybe twice at some point throughout the winter, we're going to have her do a 5K attempt. We're on a controlled course. I'm going to say, all right, run your fastest 5K. It doesn't necessarily have to be a race that you're signing up for, but hey, run this 5K as fast as you can, and we're going to see if that's at least better than what her baseline was. So establishing that baseline is important because then it tells you if you've actually made any improvement. And interval training is how you actually get faster, and then sprinkling in some attempts is how you know if you're making progress. Okay? So improving strength. So Young was talking a lot about this in her last presentation, but muscle strength is going to decline during the training season. All the running we do doesn't actually make our legs muscles stronger. You need to lift heavy weights in order to get actual muscle strength. So when I'm helping patients get stronger, I focus on the 1 repetition maximum. I don't know if this is a concept that's familiar for you guys, but it's very similar to like a PR for a 5K. Basically, a 1 repetition maximum is the maximum amount that you can lift only one time for a key lift. And there's ways to determine your 1 repetition maximum using 1 repetition maximum estimators. I'm going to get into that in the next slide. But essentially, I like to focus on building workouts revolving around that 1 repetition maximum because it actually introduces a level of training intensity that is often missing if you don't know what your 1 repetition maximum is. So Scott, you were talking about the bridge. So have you heard of a hip thrust where you kind of go like that with the bar on your so essentially from my interpretation of your question is that it was a loading problem. You probably aren't lifting a heavy enough weight during the hip thrust. So my invitation would be to strap yourself to a Smith machine, okay, one of those machines that's on a track, a barbell that's on a track, and you can do hip thrusts if you put your back on a bench, and then you're going to want to load that up. You could probably do like 50, 60, 70, maybe even 90, 100 pounds on a movement like that, and that's really what's going to get a lot of activation in those muscles. That lifting strong is often really overlooked, okay? Single leg movements are great as well for runners, and then again, I'm just going to keep hammering this point. Use real weights, not just body weight. Okay, let me flip back and forth between these 2 slides. I'm going to talk about this 1 repetition maximum table. This projector position is kind of annoying me, I got to be honest, sorry. But I'm all the way over here. I need to be over here. But so this is a 1 repetition maximum estimator, okay? These numbers aren't very good because they're really low. I would like all of them to have been in the hundreds just to kind of get my heavy weight point across, but this is the best table I found. So we're going to use this 50 pounds, thank you. We're going to use this 50 pounds as our example. So let's say I'm doing a squat. Let's say I'm doing a squat and I have 50 pounds on my back, okay? I'm going to try, if I'm trying to determine my 1 repetition maximum, I'm going to do as many reps as I can with that 50 pounds on my back as possible to failure, okay? And obviously you want to warm up with this kind of stuff, but let's say I have 50 pounds on my back, okay? I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, okay, it's getting hard, 4, all right, I'm going to try for 5, okay? And I couldn't do it, okay? So I got 4, but not 5. I couldn't do 5, I wasn't strong enough, okay? So if I have 50 pounds, but I did 4 repetitions at 50 pounds, my 1 repetition maximum is 55. So there's converters like this all over the internet. You can just find calculators, type in what weight you did and how many reps, and it'll spit out a number that's your 1 repetition maximum. Okay, now that we know your 1 repetition maximum, we're going to go to 80% of that in this column, okay, and this says 44. Again, I wish these numbers were a little bit bigger for my example, but Gets the point across, okay? So now when I do squats, I'm going to use 44 pounds. And I'm going to do 3 sets of 8 at 44 pounds. And what that's going to do is provide, so 80% of 1 rep max, 3 sets of 8, okay? What that's going to do is it's going to provide a training stimulus that's actually heavy enough for your capacity, okay? A big chronic problem is people underdosing the weight that they're lifting. They do a few reps and a few sets and it burns, but it's not really getting, you're not really getting that much load in the lift, okay? So when I'm doing, I like to do deadlifts like this. So I do trap bar deadlifts like this all the time. I'm not going to do it 4 weeks in a row because I'm going to give myself a rest. Okay, so then we start getting into all the weeds about periodization and things of that nature. But essentially, if you're going to improve your strength, you're going to have to lift heavy. Okay, so improving running form. Again, this is something I'm working on with a lot of my patients this off season because we really want to do this when we're not under race time pressure. Especially for those people that don't have any pain, when you start to tinker with their running gait quality, they start to get sore in areas that they weren't used to. And if they have a race coming up, that's going to throw a wrench in the plan that may not have needed to be there. So I'm working with a lot of people right now who don't have any pain, but want to improve their running form during the off season for the 2024 training season, okay, and for their races next year. So essentially, to improve your running form, you want to reduce overstriding and heel striking, okay? You want to improve the knee bend at initial contact, okay? And the easiest way to do this is to run with a higher cadence via cadence manipulation, okay? So if you want to start tinkering with your running form on your own, all you're going to do is determine your self-selected cadence. So a lot of people have fitness watches that tell you what your cadence is already. Common numbers are between 150 and 150 and 200. People can be all the way up into 200. But the number you're kind of shooting for is 180. There's a whole long thing about 180. I'm not going to get into it. But if you're between 150 and 170 and you're looking to improve your running form, you can gain a lot just by getting that number higher, closer to 180. Okay? So you determine your self-selected cadence with your fitness watch, or you can even do it manually. And then you're going to set a metronome, okay, to 10% greater than what your self-selected cadence is. So to make the numbers easy, let's say your cadence is 160, okay? You set the metronome for 176, 10%. 10% greater than 160, okay? 3 minutes on with the metronome at 176, and you're trying to match your foot strike to the beat of the metronome. So if your normal self-selected cadence is 160, that's where your normal comfortable running is. You set the metronome to 10% of that, 176. When you start running at 176, you're going to feel like Fred Flintstone, okay? And it's going to, what the result is, it's going to shorten your stride, okay, which is kind of what we want to start to get some of these things. We want to reduce the overstriding and heel striking, and shortening your stride is a great way to do that. Easiest way to do that is by manipulating your cadence, okay? Increasing the cadence. 3 minutes on, 2 minutes off for cycles of 6. So you do about 30 minutes of these on and off cycles. Before you ask, the off cycles are important because you do not want to become reliant on the audio cue from the metronome to run with an efficient short stride. One time I had a patient ignore my advice about the 2 minutes off thing, and she was just running for 30 to 40 minutes with the metronome on and just matching it all the time. And then when I got her in the clinic and was like, okay, show me what you've been working on, she's like, can I turn the metronome on? I'm like, no, because I just want to watch how you're running. So having that, and she had a hard time doing it without the metronome. So make sure you're including those off cycles as well. Okay, this is my last category. So improve mobility. This goes beyond stretching after workouts. Stretching after workouts is great, but if your goal is truly to improve mobility, you're going to have some component of your exercise routine that is strictly and specifically focusing on mobility. Okay, so some really great ways to do that are yoga. There's a bunch of mobility drills you can look up online. I can bore you to death about all the different joints you can mobilize. Foam rolling is a very popular method, very common method that a couple of our other presenters today were talking about. But essentially, my recommendation is to pick a method, set aside some specific time to work on this, and then include it in your routine 3 times a week or more. It doesn't really have to be any more complicated than that. I tried to make it even more prescriptive, but it really doesn't have to be that complicated besides just simply doing it. But I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about foam rolling for a second, because it's a tool that a lot of us have that I feel is extremely underutilized and underrated. It's cheap, it's convenient, and it really provides a full body workout as you're trying to, stabilize your trunk. You have weight through your elbow. You got the foam roller rolling across your IT band. You're controlling that whole movement. It goes more than just loosening up tissues. It really creates a good sense of body control, body awareness, which is really great for runners, especially those that are transitioning their striking patterns and when I'm working on them with gait stuff. But one problem I find with the foam roller is that a lot of people are actually very confused by it, and a lot of people don't really know how to foam roll. So what I wanted to invite you all to is a how to foam roll workshop that I'm hosting. I'm going to have it on Saturday, December 16th from 11:30 to noon. Now, I have hosted this workshop before. It was very successful. But basically the idea of the workshop is I'm going to teach you how to use a foam roller effectively, and I'll teach you how to use it for all your mobility, your winter mobility work that you can perform during the off season. Okay, the location is Fitness Defined 3938 Church Street, Evanston, Illinois. It's kind of Skevinston, 60203. But I hope to see everyone there. Now, to make your lives a little bit easier, maybe this QR code will work with the angle of the projector. But if you're interested in signing up for that workshop, you can scan this QR code. There's a form to complete, and then you'll be included on my email list, get updates about things like that. And then that's how you RSVP for the workshop. Okay?